Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and another video. So as you guys can tell from the title, I'm just gonna be running through all of the books that I read in June. So I did start the month off by trying to read my book club read, which was Icebreaker by, I believe it's Hannah Grace. Still don't own a physical copy. I read that one on my iPad, so I'll stick a photo of it up here. I read a couple pages and then I had to put it down. So we didn't finish that. And then we ended up picking up another book instead. And that book was The Paris Connection by Lorraine Brown. This is a novel that focuses on our main character, Hannah, and her partner, C. They've been together for a number of years and they're basically trying to make their way to C's sister's wedding. I don't know how to pronounce C's name. I don't know if it's C or Cy because I was really confused because his sister was called it's Stephanie or something, and I wasn't sure if his name was actually C or Cy, and then we find out towards the end of the book his name is actually Simon, so I think maybe he goes by the name Cy. They're having a holiday in Vienna and they have to try and get the train from Vienna to Amsterdam. Is that it? Yes, Amsterdam. And what happens is that it's an overnight train and they end up getting split up, and Hannah goes and sleeps in a different part of the train, and she ends up separating. Her train carriage separates from C and she actually ends up heading to France instead of Amsterdam. If you remember watching my TBR video, I was really kind of negative on Cy because I was like, how do you just leave your girlfriend on the wrong train and wake up and you wind up in two completely different places? I don't understand how he left her behind. It makes sense that she went and put herself onto a different carriage to try and sleep, and then the trains have separated and she's missed the announcements, and that's how she winds up in Paris. And what ends up happening is this other guy on the train, Leo, he also did the same thing and missed going back to the correct carriage and separating. So they end up spending the day together in Paris, and their struggles to both of them to get to Amsterdam. It was super cute. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I didn't like Simon at all. There was some elements of potential cheating which didn't come through, but overall I did really quite enjoy this novel, and I ended up rating it, I rated it 4.5 stars. It was a cute, fun, simple, easy read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then the next book I picked up was Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry by Joya Goffney. This book I rated 4 stars. I did really quite enjoy it. My main big issue with this one is that I, for whatever reason, was under the impression that they were going to be in college and not actually seniors in high school. The blackmail aspect was interesting. I thought it was kind of easy to guess who was blackmailing her. So basically what happens is that she has a journal that she writes lists in of everything, including the things that she likes and dislikes about people, the things that she's currently lying to people about, and that notebook goes missing. I thought it was kind of obvious who had it, but look, it was a fun, quick, easy read. Our main character is obviously Quinn Jackson. I thought some of her problems were a bit childish at times, and that's the thing that I think annoyed me the most, is that I had to keep reminding myself she's in high school, so the maturity level isn't really there. It's quite minimal. And that was my biggest grievance with this book, but I still rated it 4 stars, which is a great rating regardless. So the third book I actually finished this month was A Brush with Love by Maisie Eddings. This was another 4-star read for me. This was adorable. This is a novel that focuses on our main character, Harper. She is a dental student. I think one of her final years, and she's trying to go through her exams and stuff so that she can get this residency to basically work with surgeons, because she wants to do facial and oral surgeries and stuff like that in the emergency department and whatnot. And then she meets this guy, Dan, who's a first year student, but he's a first year student because he was actually studying to be in finance. He was working as a business in a company, and he was a finance guy and all of that stuff. And then his parents are both dentists. His dad passed away. Mum's struggling with the business that dad has built up, and basically forces him into taking up the dental program that he has absolutely no interest in. He's not good at it. It takes him multiple times to do things, and he's just struggling with it, and he's basically doing it to keep his mum happy. They meet, have a little meet cute. She literally takes him down a staircase. It's freaking fabulous. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was cute. It was nice to see some representation of people with anxiety. And I actually discovered that this was not a standalone. There's another 2 companion novels already out, which is wild to to me and I do want to pick them up because I did really quite enjoy it. I thought Harper was a great main character. I thought Dan was fabulous. The storyline was cute. You know, you could definitely, like, it was predictable at times, but I still loved it and thought it was great, and that is why I rated it 4 stars. And then the fourth book that I finished in June was Welcome to the Neighborhood by Lisa Rowe. This focuses on Ginny and her 11-year-old daughter Harry, who end up moving to the suburbs because Ginny marries Jeff, who owns this beautiful house in the suburbs. So her and her daughter like move out of like their apartment, and I believe it was Queens, and then they move into this town, and Ginny and Harry goes to like a new school, and it's all just about them trying to like fit in this town, in this street where they live, because they're all like trophy wives. I did rate this book 4.5 stars. I did enjoy it for the most part. I was a little worried, if you watched my TBR video, I was worried that I wasn't going to enjoy the whole like sort of single mum trope stuff. I mean, she's married from the get-go, but like I was really worried about like the mum and daughter aspect because I just don't care about reading any of that. Didn't bother me at all. I literally read this in like 2 days, if that. It was a quick, easy, fun, enjoyable read. I thought the plot was fantastic. There's a lot of like little mean girls and like petty, jealous women. I absolutely hated one of the plot lines, which was basically one of the husbands in this street basically tries to come on to Ginny, especially when Jeff is away on a business trip, and basically tries to have sex with her. And I thought that entire plot line was like unnecessary and not needed, because there was a lot going on already in the book with the plot at that point, and I didn't think adding that into it was necessary at all. They should have just left it with the drama of what was going on with her daughter, and then the drama she was having with some of the other mums in the group. I feel like that would have been ample. We didn't also then need to bring in this plot of someone wanting to sleep with her because someone has a cheating husband. That to me was unnecessary plot line, hence why I rated it a little bit lower, but I thought the characters were great. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, a quick, nice, easy, fun read, which was exactly what I needed this month, to be honest. And then after I finished Welcome to the Neighborhood, I ended up going back to Icebreaker and was basically like, I'm gonna force myself to finish reading this book because it is my book club book and pretty much everyone else has finished it. So I did pick it up again, and basically this book is about 2 college students. I, for life of me, cannot remember their names, so I do apologize, and I don't have the book here to look. But basically what happens is that there is an ice skating rink for the ice hockey players and also an ice skating rink for the professional ice skaters. And the hockey rink ends up getting damaged by another hockey team to the point that it's not actually usable, and they have to do quite a lot of maintenance and repair work on it to get it to a point where it can actually be played on. So the hockey players actually have to end up using the other ice skating rink with the ice skaters, who are really quite shitty because they're trying to get into the Olympics, and to qualify for that, our 2 main characters, one is the female ice skater and then the other is the captain of the hockey team, whose name is Nathan. And is the other girl Bree? Or am I thinking she's Bree from another book? I don't know. A lot of people said like Nathan was boyfriend goals, and no, like the first couple of chapters I was like, I don't want to date a dude like this. This is not like ideal like man for me. He's literally like, because like you get both their personas and like you jump between their different points of views, and it was literally like the way that things were written was so frustrating, because they'd be like trying to make out that like they're a nice person, and then they would be like justifying it in their heads, and it's like, no, if you're a nice person, your actions show it. Like you don't have to say it with words and justify it to people. And so I found that like a little bit irritating. I mean, some people have said there's like insta love. I don't really feel like it was insta love, but for the most part I didn't really care for the book. It got better the further you went through it, and you realize that like the girl's best friend Aaron, how do I remember like the side characters but not the female main character? That's how much I just didn't like her as a person. You know, she definitely has some character development. You find out that like she was adopted, and basically her skating partner is manipulating her, taking advantage of her, and not actually like doing things in her best interest, but making out that he is, and he just sounds like a shitty person. I loved one of the side characters, Henry. I thought he was great. I think by the end of the book, Nathan was a lot more of a likable character. Like his character development was better. He was less kind of like, I'm a good bloke, and actually was showing that he was a good bloke. The main female character went from like literally everyone in my book club found her irritating and like hated her, and we were just like slamming her in our group chat about how much we disliked her. I mean, I finished the book. I'm glad I finished it and I read it. I ended up rating it 3.5 stars, which is basically pretty much what I've liked all of the books I find meh. I rate books way too high. I mean, I think the thing I hated the most about the book was that I'd nearly finished it, and then I found out there are other books in the series, and I was like, yeah, I could pick them up and read them. And like that's the thing I hated. Like the book isn't good enough for me to warrant picking up the next books in the series and to maybe try this author again. I found out there was another sequel and I wanted to pick it up, and I really hated the fact that I said that to myself. So I'm not going to be picking up the sequel and doing that because I did not like it enough to do it, but I'm just really mad that I had that thought for like a minute. That was Icebreaker. I'm really glad I don't own a physical copy of the book, because if I did, in all honesty, I'd probably be selling it because I didn't like it enough to warrant keeping it nor to buy it. So then the sixth book I read was hands down the best book that I have read in the month of June. Probably going to come as like zero surprise to anybody if you've seen my book haul video, but that is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This is the most recent book that Ali has come out with. This literally came out in June. It continues on with our Women in STEM, and I think this is actually my favorite one by her. So we focus on Elsie and then also Jack. So they are both scientists. They're both physicists. She is a theoretical physicist and he's an experimental physicist. You know, her whole I guess profession is looked down upon in their community because this other experimental physicist, when he was a teenager, basically wrote this whole like fake journal for theoretical physicists, and then came out and basically was like, yeah, I just wrote like a load of bull, none of it's true, don't believe it, just to basically disprove, you know, and discredit this entire community. So she's kind of struggling. Her mentor doesn't actually look out for her because her mentor was at that time like the editor-in-chief who signed off on this paper being published and actually lost his job, his reputation. And she basically finds out that she is one of two people going for a job at, I think it's MIT, and she has to basically impress all of the professors because they're going to pick between her as a theoretical physicist and then the other person going for the role is also an experimental physicist, and her and Jack end up falling in love because he's one of the professors there. And it was just stunning. It was so cute. I loved both Elsie and Jack, and also to add a bit more drama to it, Elsie to help, I guess, fund her life and be able to live during college, she and her roommate started to be, I don't know quite the job, but they act as fake girlfriends for people, and they can be hired out just to go on dates and, you know, pretend to to events for your family. Like they just take like, yeah, this is my girlfriend, and they pretend to fake date. And basically she finds out that like her favorite client that she pretends to fake date all the time, that's like legit like nearly one of her friends, and I think she's a little bit sad that they pretend to date because she'd love to be like best friends with him. Turns out that his brother is Jack, who has always had a crush on her. He thinks that she's a librarian, so none of them actually know that she is a theoretical physicist, because obviously she doesn't want to give them details of her real life because it's just like these one-off dates that she does. And Jack is really confused when she rocks up at this interview for this like, and at this dinner, because it's like a week-long thing. It's not like an interview, it's like multiple, you know, tests and interviews and stuff over like a week or two period. He's really confused because he's like, my brother thinks you're a librarian, like why are you lying to him about the fact that you're actually a theoretical physicist? But like, it's super cute. I loved Jack and Elsie. I thought they were adorable. It was just so well written and I flew through it, and I'm a little sad that like I finished reading it because it's over, but it was definitely my favorite one by Ali Hazelwood so far, and was of course a 5-star read for me. Yeah, that was the 6th book that I picked up. And then the 7th and final book that I read, I wanted to read 8, but I didn't quite get to the 8th book. But the final book that I did read, and my only fantasy read of the month, was Gravebriar by Casey L. Bond. I literally finished this one on the 30th of June, so I got it in. So this is the fantasy novel. It is a standalone fantasy novel, which was fantastic. I ended up rating it 4 stars. So this novel does a focus on our main character, Castor. They are a witch community living in this town called Cauldron, and basically there are different like little, I guess, like witch groups, because they all have different types of magic. So you literally have witches who like survive on blood, so they're a bit more like the vampire side of ones. You've got witches who can like spell things with like their words, like whether they're spoken or written. You've then also got witches who can control like the elements. Then also have witches who are able to like bond their souls with like animals and control animals. And then you also have witches who are able to heal. And we focus on Castor, who belongs to the Gravebriars, which is the name of the witches that can heal. Her mother is the Power. So that means that she's the most powerful witch in their coven, and she's their leader, and each coven has their own leader and they have their own council. At an event held by her family, one of her coven mates ends up being poisoned, and she's accused of doing it because they actually find out her family have been lying about her power. So they've said her power is really quite weak, it's not really manifested, she's not really able to heal, but actually unknown to pretty much the entire community except for her coven, who are all aware her power actually lies in poison. So she can remove poison, she can poison people, that's where her magic lies, and she's really quite a strong poison witch. So they basically find out that they've been lying, and they say, right, because he's been poisoned, you are our main suspect purely because of that whole thing. So you need to go and find this thing called the Gravebriar, which is a berry that can heal anyone of anything, because their entire, I guess, source of Gravebriar was destroyed. And Castor is basically sent out and said, if you find this and come back and heal him, you will be found innocent of this crime. Everyone pretty much believes that she is guilty. And then she's sent out with this other witch whose father is the power, and I forgot to mention this coven, but basically they work with metals, so they can change metals into like weapons and all of this stuff. And so his name is Forge, he's a Silverthorn, which is the name of that coven, and so they have to basically go and find the Gravebriar to heal this witch that has been injured and poisoned. And it was really quite like intricate and took me a little while to get into it, but Forge has basically been told if she hasn't found the Gravebriar by 2 days, you have to kill her and just pluck the Gravebriar that will grow out of her grave, because all of the covens in the Gravebriar coven, once they're killed and buried, the Gravebriar plant will sprout with the berries and you can pick them once they die, but it only lasts for like 24 hours. So they're very limited as to how many you have. They're not easily found. Forge and Castor end up having a friendship, falling in love, meeting up with all these other witches, finding out that they're being hunted and that there's actually this plot to destroy like the magical barrier around Cauldron, and someone wants to go in and like take over Cauldron. So it was a very like interesting plot. I went back and forth on whether or not we could trust Forge or not, because he's also lied about his power and what he's able to do. So you didn't know if he was a good guy or a bad guy, and then you didn't know if the other people were good guys or bad guys, and then it just got really like confusing at one point as to who you should believe. But I did quite thoroughly enjoy it. I'm glad that I read it. It was a cool, interesting world. I don't really feel like there's anything else you could do with it, so I did really quite enjoy it. I thought it was a great novel. I'm glad I've read it as a standalone. That was the last book that I read in June. Alrighty guys, so they are all of the books that I did manage to read this month. I'm really quite proud that I got through 7. I think it's been a while since I've been able to read a number of books that were good and that I enjoyed and was able to just fly through, so I was really glad that I was able to read as many as I did. Could you please let me know in the comments below what books you managed to read in the month of June, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!